Okay. All right. Not bad. Welcome again. I'm Jamie Jones. I'm really glad you're all here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the PSC and our literary arts. I explained our journals earlier, a few minutes ago, but it's terrific to work for a school that supports the literary arts so significantly, like PSC does. We've, had a great poet in last week. Now we've got another one. We have events for our journals. And for the last 6-7 years now, or longer, we've been bringing in poets, heavy hitters like my friend Leanne Brown right here. And as I've told my students, it makes school more real, makes it more relevant, especially in English classes. We're teaching writing and language and talking about words. This is what it's all about. This makes it real. So thank you for coming. Leanne Brown was born in Japan and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina. She is the author of Polyverse, The Sleep That Changed Everything, Bagatelles for Cornell, maybe, In the Laurel's Cult, and she served as a judge for the 2012 Carolina Wren Press Poetry Series. Far from the Fields of Ambition is her book about Black Mountain College. I'm so curious about that book. From Lorimer Press and Lenoir-Rhyne University. She is the founder of Tender Buttons Press and associate professor of English at St. John's University in New York City. Brown lives in both New York City and Marshall, North Carolina. And as I said at the workshop earlier, I met Leanne over 20 years ago in New Orleans at a poetry reading. And then I would just happen to see her every couple of years at a poetry reading. And then when I moved to New York, I would see her quite often around. And I've enjoyed her books, and really her poems she reinvents herself. Her poems reinvent themselves all the time. And she reinvents the old forms specifically. Like today in the workshop, we were working on the sonnet, but it was an expanded idea, I think, for me anyway, of what the sonnet can do. And it's anything but a boring form, and her work is proof of that. Anyway, I don't want to talk anymore. I am delighted to have her here. I thought about getting her here the first time I met her over 20 years ago. So without any further ado, please welcome Leanne Brown.
Thank you so much, Jamie, and thank you, English department and poetry groups, for having me today. I really love sharing poetry, my own poetry, and then helping you generate new poetry. And I'm really excited to have been included in the Hurricane Review twice. So I'm going to start with those poems just to thank you for publishing me. The first one was a while ago. The one, what year was that? With the
2018 maybe?
what? Oh, yeah, on Spine. Okay, 2020. All right. We know what that happened that year. Big hurricane of our minds. So I was talking about, like you said, sonnets, but another form I like to work with is an ode, which just means a praise poem. So this is called Solar Ode. And it's dedicated to my friend Camille Schaefer, who lives up in the mountains of North Carolina in a building called Azul. It means blue. It's like a artist residency that she's carved out of the mountain. So please look it up, Azul Artist Residency in near Hot Springs, North Carolina. Solar Ode. What? Oh, Solar Ode. Invocation of the hummingbird. Welcome to the day before the eclipse. Church on the screened-in porch with twisty vines. Lichen is taken up with the moss. So whose part will you take in the great network beneath our feet? The living mountain, a hummingbird bigger than a bee. Under the beams, a wasp. In the black walnut, you will see all you animals. When the eclipse makes tiny crepuscular shapes around you, here in the relative place. Last night's owl will wake you up and fly to get your prey. As the day grows dim, you'll think it's night. Think of the way children paint the sun, the fiery corona around its face. Now we will see it for real when the moon crosses the solar disk. I'll tell you how the sun rose, a ribbon at a time. I'll sing this hymn to the sun. Sun, 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 come out. I'll sing you an eclipse hymn. We are the 21st century ambassadors of peace. Good morning, big purple-headed flowers of hymns. I'm sending you this dream photo, mushroom sun, bobolink frosted with my super bubble heart, joyous lake of fire, flow into each other, jump into the fox den of the day on the mushroom trail of the painter cat off Panther Branch, crawling and creeping toward the big eclipse, only 2 days away. 2 luminous fleshy mushrooms met us at the front door in the yard of our animal house, up Woolly Shot Branch. Green serpentine roads explore with wood smoke scent. Vines of time grow in the midst of August alive. Spring Hill gushes water out, clean and cleared by the passion flower. Stream rocky undergirdle, purple and complex, delicate wires, organic, all fueled by the sun, where the stars and the elements will tremble with fear. The purpose of the artist is to lay bare the questions that have been hidden by the answers, says James Baldwin. Here the world curves in green, undulation, big purple umbles, grand orange cat, sniffs our car like the sun, slippery jack, mycorrhizal titles like chicken fat, unicorn, Melania pink, any witches need buttering, Lactarius pecci, red pores on mushrooms, stained blue, fungus among us, bumper sticker of the year up here says, may the forest be with you. There was woven wheat in the middle of the crop circle and fruiting blue. Have you experienced the corpse flower? It permeates the whole area. Jack-o'-lantern, sparrow, and here's a bunch of purple slimers. Maybe someday when I am gem-studded, wolf farts, lycoperdon, palladium, cup fungus, devil's urn, names of mushrooms, toxic or questionable, bird's nest, puffball, cortina, cortinarium, through the veil, through the spider web, pores, gills, tooth, bristle, terrestrial, central stalks, black sarcodon, pinwheels, moriasmius, dry out, couplets, and pop up. Rhizome, advantageous roots for us to explore. That was a long poem. Thank you. Solar Road. Yeah. It's a funny way to start. Yeah, that's a poem that I wrote in 21st of August, 2017, as the eclipse was happening and all the nature I was encountering around that mountain. And then I will read these sonnets. They're sort of free-form sonnets that y'all so generously published in the new Hurricane Review. And there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I thank Jamie for helping me tweak some of the little edits in there. So this is, I think of the sonnet as being like a lot of times about love and about longing, and a lot of times, sometimes they're about elegy, about death. So this one is, I looked up all these different kinds of love. You might know there's like, erotic love and, agape, sort of like brotherly love, community love, and there's all kinds of different words for different kinds of love. So I found one that I'd never seen before called licence. So I tried to write what that was. Licence sonnet. Looking up kinds of love to see which one you have done to me, and find that unknowability increases my desire to wait and see. Now, how it's sustained and I'm free. Crush storm passed over me. I can be electricity. Who am I kidding? Recapitulation. Every absorptive Marlowe Thomas moment blobs out in mercury rain. In windows of pop skyscraper mind. All I mean is I'm still carving a groove. The groove is in the heart, a song apart. So I think Licence was something about having a crush. All right. And this is this title has a little bit of a pun about my kid who goes by he now. The once, W-A-E-N-T-S, instead of O-N-C-E, the once and future king. I brought my fertile body to the family as projectionist of the highest caliber. I leave the smallest corner of the room unpainted, so as to say, it's still unfinished. Here's to Diana Prima, who told me long ago, when I was stuck, of how Robert Duncan would write more of the same kinds of poems across his books. I did, in fact, and am writing poems growing like new vines out of seeds from long ago. Poems of cats and spring, more complex tell-all tall poppies pick themselves back up even when cut down. Their blossoming sore as a stain. Hello out there, insert your name here. I knit a hole of not so tiny imperfections in the bowl of the poem so you can read it and wonder why. This one I called P-O-I-M, poem, because that's what some Southerners say, poem. Poem. I speak of love and its infinitude, all plenitude, as well as more finite needs, as how it all morphs in threat of death. Love is strong as death, proclaimed the Brownian romantic tower. Only years later do I realize it's Shakespeare who wrote that in a sonnet in his loud and quiet music. Sublunary stanzas exploding outwards after smoldering, if they still do what I think they will. Polysyllabant pokeberry, stems of words, language with 5 petals of pickled ginger. I once ate lamb tongues at an Iraqi restaurant and hope the arc of the sonnet was not wasted on me sublingually. All right. Love's final dram of death is dream from which. Love's final dram of death is dream from which we never wake and practice every night. The screen is only as big as a modern sonnet. This screen is what I'm talking about. The screen is only as big as a modern sonnet, like today's version of Kerouacial breast pocket ode. Guess it depends on your dream size as to how long your lines run, and as the roll of light is endless, we can pretend it just keeps going like a scroll. Let's volta on until we land and forget viscerally where we were last and start again to fend off debt and or trespass depending on the denomination of your bill's sphere. Up and down the net worth scale of A, all appliances play. So on to B anyway. And the last is, in this book is If this plane went down, no one would ever. If this plane went down, no one would ever read this verse unless my rose gold box rose from ash like a tiny phoenix on the loose, made briefly famous by her author's fiery demise and flaming aura. In the future, people will want their 15 minutes of privacy rather than fame. So come over here again so we can be the same, like Genesis and Lady J. As the world turns down its throbbing gristle, I hope these words will, as a darting missile, pierce the fullness of all hearts who have been worn out by daily thumping. Now remember, joys of jumping over hurdles, exit bumping. Dump that hump and play your ace. We are heading into space. Thank you. Yeah, I'm working on a whole big manuscript of those that I'm trying to decide which ones belong in the book. I've got like 222 of them, and my publisher said, I think it needs to be a little shorter, so now I'm trying to figure out which ones are the ones I really want. So those are definitely going in, because I worked on those hard with y'all. Thank you. So what should I read? Okay, I have this, I was thinking about, oh yeah, this book is a book I wrote for around my family in North Carolina. And I love being down here and hearing Southern accents, so I'm just sort of thinking about, poems of and for Southerners. This is called Crowns of Charlotte. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was named for Queen Charlotte, who was the King George IV's queen, and when before the colonies were lost. But I start out with a hymn. I work with hymns a lot. So this is, you might recognize this hymn tune, An Festa Borg. Almighty, okay, let me get it. It's called Transformation Hymn. Almighty fortresses, open your doors. All swords to plowshares beaten. Why do our leaders lead us to war? All vengeful hatred eaten. For still our ancient foe within us each doth grow. Our need this hour is great. Disarm this cruel fate. Our words of love undo it. See, there's a lot of anti-war poems in here. Yay. All right. Poets can have a voice. Acoustic winter. If the year ends a plural spiral, make it be so. What a year is. If the winter begins again here, in the longest, darkest place of the shortest, bluest day, we play the stillness deep into the night song beside all our sleeping family breath. Of the 5 friends I'm holding, who will last this winter in their earthly spiral, in their spring trajectory, move to lovely summer, one more lovely summer, or further time to foil, days whirl into nights. I move to see my parents, the ones who have borne me out, have borne me up. I move to be with my sister and her local love, her ones. I move to join the circle. I am already in my kith. Acoustic winter sings a summer, a way to stay awake as the light brings back its basket, its halo, its wreath of line and berries. Pine hurries to the wind again. Night is here at its most clear. Sound across the zone a weave. I sing this song again for winter. May Venus never sever her move across the sun to come upon the next transit, the next music, in time to find, to finger the new way to unwind skeins of sound in mind. Thank you. All right. This is called Among Us, and it puns on the Hmong people, H-M-O-N-G. My mother was a refugee resettlement worker. After I went away to college, that was her job. She was a director of Christian education, and then she worked with refugees and helped them find new homes. So this alludes to that. Among us, we are each other's mothers, sisters, brothers, fathers, once in camps or encamped behind wires. War is over, I thought, forever, as I blew my cornet in a suburban backyard, age 12, 1975. I drew a peace sign and a dove. No way to recover someone so close to those close to me, irrevocably gone in Vietnam. Unthinkable to release us from one war only to tie us to another and another. I had faith in the world. World, why are you still doing this killing? How can over 7,000, or is it over 70,000 young Iraqi men be bulldozed alive under the burning sands of Iraq? The war comes home. Why are people afraid to open front doors, children to roam around? We have to start again, a poet said to me. She was very tired. Yet again went on to rest, create again a new place, to hold complex thought enmeshed in word, race, space, place, for party-colored people, new flavors raining down upon definition. The Hmong among us become us, tribal leaders ensconced, story quilts of escape halfway up the mountain, red cord and chicken foot around wrists, seeds sewn into their clothes. Kalor wouldn't go in that house our church gave her family. A bird spirit was trapped inside, battling the windows with its wings. No written language, everything is alive, sees the bondage around us daily. Next door, slave times still cross town. All children are our children, growing up and living. Now all our parents are our work, our word, our world. So trying to tackle some big subjects, and some of the reasons I moved up north, because I couldn't deal with some of the stuff that was around me, but then I realized it was everywhere, all the problems that we're having to try to work out together. So I'm trying to address some of these intense things. Actually, I found this one poem that I was just thinking of. I was talking about poetic form, like, sonnets and odes and different things, and one is just a simple alphabet. And one way to call it is an abecedarium or an abecedarium, where you just write the alphabet down the page and then you let yourself kind of use that as a structure to go whatever you need to think about. And this is one I wrote way back in 2016, when you might remember when the HB2 bill happened in North Carolina, when they wouldn't let people go into the bathrooms of their choice. They had to go to the one that their sex was on the birth certificate. So this Pat McCrory was the governor at the time. So I wrote a lament about that. So I pulled it out. So it's got, listen for the alphabet going down the page. The New Book of Lamentations. As I travel east to the Carolina lowlands, a beast rears up his ugly head and snarls like Cerberus as hound dog on the loose, damning all in his path, sucking eggs of folding gold, of nests, hope chests flung open, sucked dry by thrown open rows of gigantic limbs of depravity lurking in the hedgerows, masked, feigning indifference now. I see their ugly faces so well hidden in my childhood. I now see jerked off bags over heads as the lynchmen of history kill one by many all we love and have loved, us people of the earth, of the salt, of the moon, rising over the hill, even she gives me the baleful eye. Never thought I'd have to witness this existence. Oh, Carolina Panthers, quickly flex your claws and swipe down these ridiculous varmints who are about unholy businesses like the hanging, torchings, rapings, beatings of the past. So recent a thing that this is not the way to put North Carolina on the map. This undertow of evil is mighty and powerful. Vote Pat McCrory out. The world is watching. X marks the spot where you never asked. But now I'm asking, what will be our point Z? So I give you the ABC Darian to write, thank you, write what you will, right? Write the alphabet and let it rip. What else? So yeah, find ways to let poetic form help you say what you need to say, right? That's my message. What do I want to sing to y'all? Oh yeah, this is one does anybody know that musician, Will Oldham? Any Palace Brothers or Bonnie Prince Billy fans in the house? So he's one that I really like, and we were talking about today in the workshop about how song lyrics and pop culture and songs from your childhood, they're all good material and structures for tunes and words and lyrics that you can rewrite in your head. So I rewrote this song. I took his tune that's called Minor Place that you might know. You can look it up, but Will Oldham's Minor Place. And his is very minor, and I made mine more sort of upbeat, but it's called The Words of Love. And I took a line from, those church signs when you go down the road and you see a church billboard and it says like a motto from a church. And I saw this great one. It said, I pledge allegiance to the Lamb, which I thought was a very strange mixture of church and state, So I put this in here. The words of love. I thank the world it will anoint me if I show it how I hold it. That's Will Oldham. I pledge allegiance to the Lamb and also to the other ones. The march is long and now I stand again on ground fresh broken. I had small difficulty made keeping up with your parade. The underbrush was heavy, dense, with sounds of distant fire. I've been cut and I've been frayed, spliced as whole as any maid. Despite this rending, I have stayed in aisles of trees amongst the shades. Our loved ones, they have gone far from camps of death and harm. We're still in this mortal coil, words of love as leaves unfurl. Now you and me, we're each alone, yellow cake and marrow-bone. All sense of fear now pass away. I trace a map along the way. I pledge allegiance to the Lamb and also to the other ones. The march is long and now I stand again on ground fresh broken. Thank you. That's a half an hour, that's good. Thank you for listening. I'm reading again tomorrow at the Punk House, right? Is that good? All right.
Do you mind taking some questions?
Oh, wait, questions, yeah. Any questions or conversation, I'd welcome, yeah. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yeah.
So when did you, probably an easy answer to this one, when did you write your first poem? What was your first poem? Do you have a memory of that?
Consciously, probably like second grade. I had a really great teacher who would ask us to write. She had these little contests, like she would give us this weird assignment, and I would like strive to do it. But I wrote about, I think I alluded to like cats in spring. Like way back then, I was writing about the same thing I write about now. But like I have a little kitten. His name is Whiskers. Plays with my mitten all day long. Sings a little song, sweet little song. Purr, purr, purr. That's one of my first poems. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Always this musicality, like nursery rhyme kind of feeling. Yeah.
Awesome. And so we're, the late great Bernadette Mayer, as many of you know, was really an honorary Pensacolian. She came here many times. She came to, sorry, Rachel's telling me to get over here.
Yeah, get over here.
Yeah.
Here's the mic.
So, yeah, she was in Pensacola a whole lot, and she came to Pensacola State a few times also. And amazing poet, really changed my life. And I know she was for Leanne as well. And I'm wondering, do you remember when you first read her and what it was that inspired you about her work?
Okay. Well, I first discovered her because I would go to the bookstore at my college. I went to Brown University, and I would just look and see what everybody was teaching, even though I couldn't take all the classes I wanted to take. And C.D. Wright, who's a great poet, also was teaching a class on the long poem. So I just bought not all of them, but some of the books from the class, and I just read her poem called Midwinter Day. It's a long book-length poem about one day, and like December 21st in, was it 1970 something? But it's like she's a young mother. She has 3 children. She's like pretty much a single mother at that point, and like just this overwhelming amount of stuff that happens in one day to anybody, but like to her especially, because she studied ahead of time to get ready for this day. She knew that would be the day she would write the poem, and then she took pictures during that day. She had a tape recorder in the closet where she would go, because the kids were making a lot of noise, and she would record thoughts. But she actually worked on the poem that day between everything else. And it's got like morning, noon, afternoon, evening, night. But the morning session, like the dreams are being recounted. All the kids are telling their dreams, and it's just like a domestic space. And it's just this beautiful poem, and it just has this great expansiveness and this lyric quality too. Like it's like new and old. It's like together,
Right.
Yeah, and it's also I didn't realize till years later, like she was thinking of Joyce's Ulysses and how that's one day. So she was doing this epic project like Joyce's Ulysses. I didn't even get that, and she was like, Leanne. I was like, Bernadette, I didn't realize you were doing Joyce, your own version of Ulysses. So this idea of rewriting somebody else's project in your own way was very impressive to me.
In your own way, in your own time,
Yeah.
which you do a lot of as well,
Yeah.
clearly. And I know many of you are poets in the audience and writers, and many of you are not, but I hope you feel okay enough to ask questions. Now's a good time. Does anybody have any other questions for Leanne? Don't everybody jump at once. Okay. Well, oh, yes. Thank you. Please.
How would you describe the writing process?
I just sort of write all the time. I have like my phone notes. I'm just always like, when something catches my ear, and I'll like write something down that I hear somebody say, or I'll have a thought that just comes into my head, and then I'll just sort of add to it. Like, and I start my day with like writing down dreams, and I try to not only just write down what happened to the dream, but sort of write out of the energy of the dream. So that's a big part of it. But my problem is to galvanize it into a book. That's been hard for me because I'm just like always writing on the fly between everything. So I really value time to go away and really sort of raise it up to like, edit it and like make what I want to keep, So sometimes that's a challenge for me because I'm always I do like a million things. I'm a professor and a mother and like run around to poetry readings all the time. But I'll write during everything, kind of. Yeah.
And I know you have Tender Buttons Press. Now that was
Yeah.
Bernadette's Sonnets the first book?
Yeah, I published her book Sonnets. That was number 1, yeah.
Yeah, and that was
89.
1989, wow.
Yeah,
That's
probably
terrific.
some of y'all weren't even born. But I just do like one book a year. I just slow and steady,
Yeah. And does that I'm sure that kind of feeds into the poetry and
Yeah, like just to type her sonnets, all of them that went into my brain, like to type them up, and just to have publish other people and give that. I just wanted so badly to have a book of my own, and I said to Bernadette, who's going to publish my first book? And she said, well, you should publish your own book. And I didn't really want to do that. I thought it was, so I should make a nest for the work that I want to do of people that I really wanted to see. So she gave me her book, so that was great. But, yeah.
Do you seek out authors to publish, or do they come to you?
Oh, I just sort of, I seek them out. Like I just listen to a lot of readings. Usually it's something I hear. And I just can publish such a tiny amount compared to the work that I get. It's really hard for me. I've never done like a contest or anything like that, or a call. But people will send me stuff and I like to read it. But there's this one poet I'm working on really for 30 years, trying to get a book together. My friend Julie Patton, and we're both kind of like fly by night, so it's really hard like the combination of me and her together is really difficult to actually get a definitive manuscript. I have so much material from her, and she's going to have a moment. I think look out for Julie Ezel Patton. So I can't do anything until I get that done. This is the year to publish Julie Patton. It's like the letter B. She riffs on like different letters of the alphabet, and I get to do the B poem. So I have tons of stuff that's going to stand for like Billie Holiday and being and black and all these different manifestations of the letter B, and she's a good performer too. So I have to figure out how the book is going to show her voice and how she improvises and plays with this work too. It's like a score, So that's a big project I'm trying to work on now. So I can't see past that right now, but yeah.
And you over here?
Yeah. What? I mean, my own books or somebody else's? Oh, my own? Oh, well, I have a book that I've been working on also for 30 years that is like writing during other people's like films, and some during readings, or but it's been this practice. I say it like filtering, like listening, and that's grown over time, and I don't, that's like 30 years. But I keep saying, I should have just done book 1, book 2, book 3, but now I have all this work. So I don't, it depends. Like I have like 5 manuscripts I haven't finished yet. So, and the last big crop was like, I did do a book in 2015 after I'd had my kid. But these 2 books came out at the same, like a few months apart, but each took many years to write. But they came out double header. They're both about North Carolina, and I was going to do a trilogy, so there's another one. I'm sort of moving across the state. This is like the mountains, this is the Piedmont, and I'm going to go to the Outer Banks, so I haven't done that yet. So yeah, it depends on the project, but yeah.
Awesome, I'm so glad to hear you talking a little bit about editing. Yeah, Geraldine.
Did you know you'd be making a living at this? Going to college was part of it?
Oh, I make a living as a professor, so I don't make a living as a poet, really. So yeah, I mean, I sometimes get a nice little gig like this. Thank you very much. But it's not something I could live off of. So, is that what you mean? Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
I've come to a lot of things
Yeah.
In arts here, and often the students want to know about a livelihood.
Yeah, I think most poets do something else.
I have no idea
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, you write during whatever you're going to do, and poetry can always be there for you, no matter what. Whether you're working at, a restaurant, or being a doctor, or like whatever. Or teaching is good because then you can assign your own. You can just assign things you want to read, and read it along with everybody else, and that really feeds your work. So I think there are a lot of poets that do teach, but there's poets that do everything and anything, Yeah.
And then there's poets like Alice Notley who just dig in and just do that one thing, right?
Yeah.
Ava.
So,
Oh, sorry.
how would you describe like your influences in your writing? I know you talk about publishing a lot about North Carolina, and then being Southern, and then also some of your works that mention like your grandmother and your family. How would you say that that's all influenced you in all of your work?
Well, I just sort of read some of this family Southern poems because I just felt like I was in the South right now. I have a lot of different things I write about, but I don't know. I mostly just read poetry all the time. Like Alice Notley again said, read poetry and imagine yourself writing it. Like that kind of call and response of whatever I'm reading, I start scribbling in the margins, whether it be poetry or something else, but whether it be, I'll look at a math book or quantum mechanics, or like one time I was at Cambridge University for a whole 9 months for a school year. I just went to all these different classes like geology and macroeconomics, and I just took notes, and just listened, and then made the poems out of the words that caught my ear, and then like sort of played with them, and so it's anything. I try to expand. Yeah.
The poems that you write about like issues about war and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you only write about like the big issues, or do you write about like any issues that you think are important to talk about?
Well, issues seem to imply big, Yeah. What do you mean, like? Yeah.
Like
Like-
the bathroom bill and
The what?
the
Yeah.
bill you talked about, and then the wars and stuff. Like those are both big changes and stuff. So I was just wondering if you only write about like the big issues, or do you also write about smaller, more localized issues?
The what kind of issues? Sorry. What was the adjective?
Smaller, more localized
Local.
issues.
Yeah, well, I think that, I think I write a lot about my own personal life, like love poems and stuff, or like my kid. Like I read some about my kid, and sometimes it's kind of embedded in there, I guess. But yeah, and to me that's kind of like, yeah, I write a lot about the everyday. Yeah, yeah. And like in my dream writing, I have this double entry thing where I write the dream down, and sometimes I'll say, well, this obviously, I dreamed this window opening in the skylight last night because I'm trying to find a way to finish this book or something. Or like my friend died, my teacher Lynn Hagenian just died, and I had several images of like an underworld journey. So like I'll try to make a note about stuff that happened, and when I try to think about why did I dream that, So that seems very specific and local to me. And sometimes, sometimes my students are like, they try to write about these big abstractions, like say like these large, like philosophies, and sometimes that can be dangerous because you start making generalizations. Like the more you write about your specific life, it's like this weird cross effect. Like the more specific you are, the more universal it is, because people get it. They identify with your own, they want to know about you. So I use a lot of very specific things from my local life, what I see. But yeah, I just think of myself as like in the middle of these circles, and the circles go out, and it's like my immediate community and to the cosmos, Like you can hit any of those places and it'll reverb, So I try to play a range. Like that first poem I read, The Solar Ode, was about taking a walk in the woods, and like what kind of mushrooms I saw, So, yeah.
I'm so glad you read
Yeah.
that, because I've loved that poem, but
Yeah.
I've never known exactly how I should read it.
Well, I didn't know.
Yeah,
I've never
trust me,
read
I'm
it
not
that way
gonna sing
before.
it
I just,
next time,
I
but,
just happened to, I just seemed to ask for me to do that.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I've been doing that more, like this weird sort of intonation between singing and speaking. It's been coming out of me lately. It's a new evolution. I hope it works.
You clearly feel it.
Yeah.
You're feeling it.
Yeah, I was using the word intonation. There's a practice of composition from, what do you call it, Indian ragas, and my friends play these Indian instruments, and it's called just intonation. I don't know a lot about it yet, but it's like these different scales of microtonal scales. It's not like our the Western music scale. It's like it has a different intoning, and it's more microtonal. It's like a lot of people have worked with different ways of having it, things between the notes. So I'm trying to work with that idea, and I like that term, just intonation. It means, it's justified, but it also means, oh, that's just intonation. Why not? Why not see what the words will sing? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Yeah.
Well, Leanne will be reading at the Punk House, 309 6th Avenue. If you're not familiar with that, you need to be. It's an amazing place. She'll be reading at 7 o'clock with the poet Erica Streeter and some guy named Jamie Jones. So I think you should all come. We hope to see you there.
Yeah, I'll read it at a whole different set, so I won't repeat myself, I promise.
So let's please give her a round of
Thank
applause.
you.
Thank you, Leanne. Yep.